Hey guys, it's Danny. Today we're gonna talk a little bit more about my mystery orchid. Yes, I have such a thing in my collection. It is the only one. I don't know what it is. You guys don't know what it is. Heck, not even the nursery knows what it is. The label is absolutely wrong for this orchid, and it is this one right here. Some of you might know it. Well, things are happening. It's growing and it's getting weirder and weirder. So I think it deserves a video in which we talk about the beginnings and how it looked like when I purchased it, how it's developing, and we're also going to repot it today and take a look at the root system because the top is very green, as you can see, and it's starting to smell. So that said, let's start with a little bit of a history with this orchid. So I purchased this orchid last year from Orchid Garden, and the tag for it is Stanhopea oculata. Now, the nursery is Orchid Garden in Poland, and this would not be the first orchid I got mislabeled from them, but they're not the only nursery or seller that sold mislabeled orchids to me. It's becoming quite a problem, sadly. And yes, I know it all comes from their suppliers, so maybe it's time to look into some new suppliers. And well, this was the story with this one. Yes, I saw the picture on the website, but from a picture you cannot really tell anything about the thickness of the leaves, the texture, if it's glossy, if it's not glossy, all of these details which could actually give away that an orchid might be mislabeled. And when orchids come out of the flask, they don't actually look like their mature counterparts. Orchids which produce pseudobulbs might actually not have a formed pseudobulb when they come out of the flask. So I thought this was a very young seedling that didn't have mature pseudobulbs just yet. The orchid that I received happened to be even smaller than the one in the picture, but since I never had a Stanhopea seedling, I just thought it was a Stanhopea. And then of course, with the second opinion of some of my viewers, and as the orchid started to grow and get adjusted to the outside world, I started to seriously suspect it is mislabeled. And I do believe it is. It looks nothing like what a Stanhopea should look like. Now, sadly, I don't actually have another Stanhopea to show you how it's supposed to look like, but from what I gathered throughout the years, it should be very similar looking to Gongoras. I think they are actually related, and as far as I can see, the texture and the shape of the leaves are extremely similar. They also can look like Lycaste to some extent, but with slightly thicker leaves. And well, I can tell you that Gongoras don't actually have very thick leaves. Certainly they don't look like succulent leaves. They're rather tender if I compare them to Phalaenopsis or Cattleyas. Those orchids have very thick cuticles protecting the leaves. These ones, not so much. Also, you can see we have a little bit of a stripy texture here, which from pictures and videos I see Stanhopeas should have as well, or at least some of them. And of course, this shape to them being very narrow here at the base and then becoming broader towards the top. Again, this is a shared trait. So this is what I was kind of expecting from my little seedling as well. It's not going to look identical, nor will it have pseudobulbs, but at least the leaves will remind a little bit about something like this. Not really. First and foremost, the first thing that this orchid did when it arrived to me and when I placed it under my LED panel was to redden up. It is much greener now. It got adjusted to the light. It makes sense. Maybe it's a very young seedling actually, so it's not really adjusted to high amounts of light. But anyway, first thing, it got red. Now, to my knowledge, Stanhopeas don't actually get red. Gongoras don't actually get red. They can have paler leaves, yes, or darker leaves, but they don't redden up. So that was the first sign that something might be up. As I was saying, now it looks a little better, but it used to be red pretty much all over. Then, the shape of the leaves. We don't seem to have that narrower at the base and wider at the top shape. We actually have a pretty standard maybe Vanda shape, where the leaf width is pretty consistent throughout. Again, I'm trying to keep in mind that this is a seedling and it will not necessarily look like the adult, but there's such a big difference. Third of all, the thickness of the leaf. These leaves are very sturdy. They look very succulent. Again, very similar to Vandas, to be honest, but not really. Maybe a sort of Vindaceous orchid. I'm not even sure if this is a monopodial. And as far as I know, Stanhopea leaves should actually be very flexible. Look at this. They should be identical to this. This one is not. First of all, if we actually look at the structure, we can see that we have one middle stripe, which is very, very common with most orchids. But as I was showing you, the Gongora Stanhopias again should have multiple stripes. This one does not. And overall, I don't see any pseudobulbs being formed. At some point, this orchid started to produce a shoot from its side, which is here. It got stuck somewhere in the folds and I tried to free it and I broke it. So here's footage from then. So I was considering trying to remove this little leaf from the, oh, maybe I can. Oh, you guys, fingers crossed. Am I going to break it? That is the question. Yep, I broke it. It's okay. But now I realize that these are two separate. Oh no, looky here. You will never guess it. What I just broke here was part of the same plant. This inside is the tip of the thing that I just broke. But to my surprise, this little growth continued to actually grow. And look at this. This was the initial leaf, which I broke. You can see where I broke it. And here's a second leaf, you guys. Oh my goodness, can you imagine? This leaf would have been very, very long. This shoot right here, which initially I thought was the crown, maybe it's not actually the crown, is continuing growth. So that's good. And we do have another second growth here, which was present in my other video as well. I filmed that about a month ago. This one is growing as well. So it is a mystery. Overall, so far, it has no Stanhopea traits. If there are any experts among you guys who deflasked Stanhopeas, do let me know what you think. I am almost positive this is a mislabeled orchid. However, now I am a little curious as to what it could be. I kind of always suspected it was a sympodial because it's creating offshoots. Sympodials don't necessarily need to have pseudobulbs to have a rhizome and be considered sympodials. Let's just think about the Paphiopedilums, they create fans. But now I'm considering that it might actually be a monopodial with keikis. Although there is a very remote chance of that, I still think it's a sympodial, but I think nothing's off the table. So I'm really curious what you think it is. I want to read the comments. You can say anything, it's anybody's guess. And I hope one day we are actually going to find out what it is, and I will be sure to come back to this video and give a prize or something to somebody who actually guessed it. If anybody guessed it, and if that person still watches me in a few years, then I will make sure to send you something nice. I don't know what. A lot of things can change in a few years. So anyway, that's a very long-term contest, but I think it's fun. And if we don't know what type of orchid this is, how do we know how to repot it? Simple. We try to find the middle ground for everything. Now, generally, epiphytic orchids, which I hope this one is, there are very high chances it is, statistically speaking, they like air and moisture. So I'm going to make sure that my medium is a combination of bark, moss. It stays rather moist, but it's very, very airy as well. This orchid doesn't really appreciate it when it goes dry, to be fully honest, so I don't want something very drying. And with a combination of these two materials in my environment, I can go with pretty much any orchid in my collection. So again, statistically speaking, chances are it will be okay for this orchid as well, because look at that algae formation on the top. I'll link it down below to more about the algae and why it's not okay. I'm not gonna go into the details now, so let's get to work. So I'll be using this slotted pot from Repot Me. I think this is the 4-inch. I'm starting to become a little better at converting between inch and centimeters. So yay! A little side note, this one is potted in a net pot, but initially it was the oxygen core pot. I'll link you to all of the history with this orchid down below in the description. It didn't work out that well because this orchid barely had any roots, so I needed to keep it more moist than that. And what happened was the water was just falling on the tray, and because this was inside a plastic pot, it wasn't actually touching the tray. So the tray had water, but the moss was dry. So I removed that outer pot and I decided to keep it only in this net pot just so I could hydrate it. But with other orchids with bigger roots, I think the concept is just fine. With this one though, it wasn't the greatest. So let's see what we have here, and we actually do have roots. Alright, so maybe this will give you some idea if this really is a Stanhopea or not. Again, I don't actually have a Stanhopea, so I cannot really tell by the root system. But as I can see, the roots have some pink color as well. They have some pigmentation. Is this normal or is it not for Stanhopians? All right, so I removed the medium or most of the medium. Oh, we have a new root here. Let's take a look. Yeah, I would say it has pretty standard roots. They look like any type of root, well, except Phalaenopsis. So yeah. All right, so I'll get rid of this medium. I'm going to be using fresh medium. Before we move on to the repotting, I really wanted to say something. This is long overdue, but it wasn't a good time for me lately. Anyway, I received in my P.O. box a whole bunch of sphagnum moss packets, but I don't know who from. So here is the little letter that I found inside, Collectors Online Market. I'm not sure if this is a store. It came from the USA actually, and I didn't order this. So I'm not sure if it's a company sending, but I haven't been contacted, or one of you guys just making a nice present for me. I did mention at some point or in multiple videos that I actually don't find this available all that often, and I actually need to order it from Orchid Nurseries with 25 euros transport or more. So maybe that's why, in case one of you send this to me as a gift, thank you so much. It's so greatly appreciated. Really, I always need sphagnum moss. It's really not something I find available. If it's a brand, do let me know. I really appreciate it. So I really wanted to give thanks for this, and sorry for the delay, but yeah, things have not been good. But now I have sphagnum moss to repot my orchids. I'm so happy. Alrighty, back to the Stanhopea. I'm going to be using some fir bark and some sphagnum moss, which I soaked in a separate tray. And you know the drill. I'm starting with a sphagnum moss bottom layer just to make sure that all of that water, which sometimes collects in the tray, will be absorbed back in the pot. It's just something that works out here in my climate very well. And with my style of watering, PS, I'm still using the spray pump. Yep, I just flush to get rid of excess salts, but I never actually notice I have any excess of anything. I try to make sure that I don't overfeed. Anyway, it's just something that works for me. And then as I go, add bark as well. And on top, of course, bark. I'm not going to leave any bit of sphagnum moss exposed because that's where algae will have a great life. And here we are, my orchid is done, but I think it's time to wait for the dog to pipe down. It's not my dog, so I can't go and comfort him. Okay, here we are. So I watered the orchid, put it on its tray. I will keep the tag just to remember what it was supposed to be and probably what it's not. And with that said, I think it's time to end. Let's just take another look-see at this very interesting orchid here. What do you guys think? What is this orchid? It looks sympodial, I'll say that. These look like new growths, not keikis or anything, but who knows? So I'm curious to know what you guys think, and yeah, one of you will get something nice in a few years if you guess correctly, and if that isn't viewer engagement long term, I don't know what is. I'm joking. So that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this. You know the drill. Like or dislike this video below. Subscribe to my channel for regular orchid videos, tutorials, Q&As, and other fun orchid subjects. And if you like to support the channel, do consider visiting the merch store down below. And with that said, hope you have a great weekend. I'll see you next time. Bye.